Hey everyone, welcome back to Life's a Blog. I'm Trina Stewart, and today's episode is going to take you on a bit of a journey. My road trip, a reckoning, and a few truths that took me a long time to say out loud. This episode is for anyone who's ever confused love with pressure, who's ever tried to be perfect to keep the peace, and who's ever watched someone they care about choose control over freedom. Last week, I went on a road trip. I had 3 big whoppers thrown at me. So it was kind of to escape, but also to heal, discover, and reveal the things I needed to know. Along the way, I met people who knew my parents. We sat in conversation, not just about my grief or my past, but about my family. I had a lot of questions. I shared some things I've been told over the years, stories that didn't sit quite right with me, and I talked about my brother. For those who don't know, my brother died of a drug overdose at 36. He was my first experience with addiction. My first heartbreak, tied to silence. He was brilliant. He was athletic. He was strong. He was expected to be the best at hockey, the best in school, the best in everything. And he was. But the weight of that pressure, that need to impress in order to feel loved, was too much to hold. I was 5 when my brother started doing drugs. He was 15. I was 26 when he passed away. When I brought him up in conversation, they didn't flinch. One said, "Your parents were very hard on your brother." That line said everything. As much as I wanted, my defense mechanisms rose to defend them, I felt peace as well. And truth. And in that moment, I understood that what he carried wasn't weakness. It was inherited pressure, generational perfectionism, a kind of coercive control that lives inside families where love is given, but only if you perform. And I remember well, in my youth, I remember always having to have the perfect hair when I go out, always having to say the right things or not saying the things that I experienced as a young child living in a home with drug and alcohol addiction. I went to my therapist yesterday and we talked about numerous things. One is about my attachment to broken people and how I can stop that trend. And she explained, after me telling the story, that coercive control doesn't always scream, sometimes it whispers. Don't disappoint us. Try harder. You're better than this. It's a kind of love with rules, a kind of love with conditions, a kind of love that looks like ambition, but feels like a weight tied to your chest. And that understanding brought me full circle when I told her that my ex had went back to his ex-wife. She cheered. She said to me, "I'm not going to tell you I told you so, but your previous therapist warned you about it, and as did I." And while it sounds like a reunited and it feels so good relationship twist, it wasn't. It was a return to what had always controlled him, what we always fought about. Those little needles coming into our relationship when she felt it was necessary. And here's the thing. For a long time, I was angry and I was so confused and I wanted answers. And I wanted him to realize what the rest of the world was seeing. But after that road trip and in my therapy, I realized something important. He didn't know any better. Addiction, coercive control, conditional love, these weren't new for him. They were normal. He had been shaped by them. And much like my brother, he had spent his life under pressure trying to prove himself, to earn back love, to belong again, to not lose everything he cared about. So even though he said a couple of times that he wanted to be with me, it wasn't a fact. We had shared real moments, deep conversations. I invited him into my family, so much so that my grandson called him a pet name for grandfather. I thought we had a different vision for life, but that wasn't the case. His heart would always belong to her because he has no other option. That was the price of seeing his son again, the price of reconnecting with people who once pushed him out, and they all pushed him out. He chose her, but really he chose survival. He may not realize it. The thing is, she came back conditionally because he was sick. When she had the opportunity to come back because he was alone, she left him alone. And once I saw it that way, I stopped taking it so personally. I started seeing a bigger pattern. And I let go of the fantasy that love alone could undo a lifetime of pressure, addiction, and emotional dependency. Going back to my visit with my family in Quebec, I said to them, this sounds just so awful. But once my parents and my ex passed away, I never felt so free. And I held a lot of guilt by saying that. But I was always expected to be so much. I couldn't be just me. We all carry burdens that were never ours to hold. Some of us try to heal them. Some of us pass them on. Some of us return to what we know, even if it hurts, because the unknown feels scarier than the pain we've learned to manage. But I'm opening up my heart to love. A real healthy love. Not a love that you'd find on Tinder or from a past relationship, or even a casual encounter at a bar. I want healthy love, and I'm going to get it one day. I'm not shrinking anymore to be loved. I'm not chasing peace where there is only power. And I'm not mistaking survival for intimacy. I did that for far too long. To those of you listening, if you've ever loved someone who chose control over connection, who chose safety over truth, please know it was never your fault. And it's not your job to fix what someone else has spent time, a lifetime of perhaps, avoiding. You deserve a love that's free. You deserve a heart that doesn't carry the weight of someone else's healing. And most of all, you deserve to rest, to release the pressure, to be loved as you are. I want to thank you for being here. I'm still getting this podcast on a roll, and one of these days we're going to have a lot of fun with it, and hopefully I'll have some guests. But until then, if this episode spoke to you, please share it with someone who may need to hear it too. And of course, you can follow me at Life's a Blog CA on Instagram or Facebook. And let's continue this journey together, one story at a time. Until next time.